Let's talk about another feature of the Pesach Seder. And if it's discussed on Pesach Seder, then it's very relevant to Pesach itself. We're on page 80. And that discussion is our obsession with children on Pesach. Let's have a look at the pasuk from the Torah which describes this obligation. It says, "V'higarat lebincha," you have to tell your children. This is the mitzvah of the Haggadah. There's the Lashon Haggadah, the Higidata, and the idea of the Haggadah specifically is told to speak to our children, to focus our energies and our thoughts towards them. What exactly are we meant to say to them? What is the obligation that we tell our children? Says the Torah in Shemot, Exodus 13:8, Lemor ba'avor zeh. Because of this, Asa Hashem li b'seis Mitzrayim. Because of this, that God acted on my behalf, that I left Mitzrayim. So we're going to look at the kids. You're meant to do zeh. Zeh means we point at something. We point at the objects on the Pesach Seder plate and the Seder table. I'm going to say because of this, Hashem did me a favor. He took me, our ancestors, out of Egypt. Interestingly, it says B'seitzi Mitzrayim, which is in the first person. B'seitzi. That's interesting. We have to discuss that, and we will today. B'seitzi Mitzrayim. When I left. When I left. B'seitzi. Remember, the yud at the end of the word makes it I. The first person, yeah? When I left Egypt. So over here, the emphasis is on me leaving Egypt. I never been to Egypt, so I don't know why I have to say that. We'll see why I have to say that Lashon even today, although you never left Egypt. Having said that, that is the command to tell our children. So that is a mitzvah d'oraita. That means Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. Speaking about the exodus from Egypt is a Torah mitzvah. When? On the night where Matzah and Moro is in front of you. What night is that? The first night of Pesach.
Not the second? We don't get to
Well, the first night is the rice, and we have 2 days to Rungalah, so for us it's 2 days. But with Chos La'aretz, however, the first night is when the Torah talks about it, is the mitzvah itself. So the Torah mitzvah means we found a Torah mitzvah, besides matzah we said, which is a Torah mitzvah to consume, besides the 4 cups of wine, which is a rabbinic mitzvah to drink, this is the second Torah mitzvah to speak about the exodus from Egypt. And there the Torah specifically says, but talk to your kids about it.
Why is it the second again? Why is it the second time?
Which second time? Second Torah mitzvah, the Pesach
Yeah,
Seder
why?
table. Because we have matzah is one of them, matzah maratochlu, and it says v'garat lebincha, and that's what the Torah tells us itself to do that. So it's a Torah mitzvah, not a rabbinic one. Okay? Let's look at the Rambam.
Read the Torah for telling your kids, not
To tell over to read the Haggadah.
Fine.
It just happens to specify that you want to do that towards your children. We're going to see, though, that if there's no children present, or you have no children, then there's another option that is available to you.
And matzah is also from Doraita?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I do it alone?
Yeah. The Gemara says, we're going to say in a second, the Gemara is going to say that if a person is unfortunate enough to be alone, which should not happen on Pesach Seder, the whole idea is to allow other people to join you, right? Called dichtin, right? Everyone who is not connected should be connected. However, if a person ends up being alone, they're away somewhere, they should ask the questions themselves and ask themselves. They still have a mitzvah to read about Sipor, Yetziat Mitzrayim, tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. They should read it to themselves. That is actually the mitzvah. Says the Rambam in Hilchot Chametz Umatzah. Mitzvah seshel Torah. It is a Torah mitzvah. So he's codifying it in his laws as a Torah mitzvah. What mitzvah? L'saper benissim, to be misaper. What's a saper? To tell over. We already said there's a hint to this in the word Pesach, where it says Pesach. Right? Pesach. The mouth speaks, or the suck with the sin as opposed to summer, but the lashon is the same. Pesach. The mouth speaks. He says the Torah mitzvah to talk. Look at that. All of you Jews are doing that all year and not getting a mitzvah for it, and suddenly do a Pesach Seder, it's a mitzvah. That's when everyone shuts up, right? Mitzvah l'saper benissim, to speak about what? Says the Rambam, specifically the nisim, the miracles, the niflaot, and the wonders, shena'asu l'avotenu, that were done for our forefathers. When Mitzrayim, they were in Egypt. That is a mitzvah. That is the mitzvah to tell and describe all the amazing miracles, the makot that happened to us, the splitting of the sea, the korban pesach, everything else that the Jewish people went through, every mitzvah they had, every nace they had, they got to talk about whale, when? Beleil Chamisha Asa, on the night of the 15th of Nisan. That is Pesach Seder night. Shneimar, because it says, look very carefully, Zachor, remember. Now that's an important word. That is an important word. Zachor.
Are you 2 or 3?
I'm in number 2. Zachor et hayom hazeh. You should remember this day. Asher yitzetem b'Mitzrayim, when you left Egypt. Kamo shenemar zochar et yom HaShabbat.
I said that. Also, it's an aseh, no, I said it last
You
time.
did say that last class. I remember you saying it. Let's describe it. It says you don't have to do Pesach Seder. Hila, what's going on with you today, Hila? You're all over the place.
No, I can't. I'm too close to this.
Just sit down. You'll be okay. Zachor means to remember. Says the Rambam, there is a mitzvah to talk about l'saper Yetziat Mitzrayim, coming out of Mitzrayim, coming out of Egypt. Why? Because that is a mitzvah d'oraisa, to remember all the miracles, that happened to the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. All the miracles happened to the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. Okay? Shh, Hila. Focus on it. Zachor, remember the miracles. The Rambam says, that reminds me of something else. That reminds me of this word appearing elsewhere in relation to another mitzvah. What is that? Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. You have to remember the Shabbat. So the word Zachor, he says, is mentioned in 2 places. One, when it comes to remembering the miracles on Pesach Seder. The other is remembering Shabbat. Yeah, remembering Shabbat. What is the connection? Why is the word Zachor being used to describe both the miracles on Pesach, right, and the mitzvah of Shabbat? So let's start with Shabbat. What does the word Zachor specifically refer to in relation to Shabbat?
What I said.
Right.
To actively remember.
The active remembrance, that's exactly it. The active memories. How do we do that? All the mitzvot of Shabbat, the positive mitzvot, are learnt out from the word Zachor, which is why on Shabbat, in the Asarta Dibrot, it says Zachor Shem Shabbat. How do we do Zachor? We drink the wine, we have Su'udot, we light the candles, make Havdalah. All these mitzvot are positive mitzvot. Mitzvot aseh. You do action. So the Rambam is saying, when we talk about remembering, we aren't just saying remembering means to, oh, I forgot, I better remember. Or, hey, do you remember when we did something? He's like, that's not enough. That is not enough. You have to actually do stuff. So how do we fulfill the mitzvah of Zachor with Shabbat? You do the mitzvah, active memories, candles, Su'udat, and all the other mitzvah that come with Shabbat. How do you remember on Pesach? He says, number 1 is to talk about it. That's how you fulfill it. L'saper, to discuss it. You're going to do a lot more. You're going to do the matzah, do the wine, you're going to lean. We'll discuss that in a second. Do all that kind of stuff as well to remember. But the memory, the first part of remembering is to talk, discuss, and describe the extra Egypt and all the amazing things that happened to our people over there. Says the Rambam. So that's the first part, right? Vegarata. She says that's the Vegarata. What about lebincha? Let's say you have no kids. Let's say you have no kids. The afal pisha en lo ben. What's wrong? Good question. The afal pisha en lo ben. Even though a person doesn't have a child to tell, to describe all this. Afilu chachamim v'dolim. And let's say, forget that. Let's say you're a genius. You know the Torah, you know the story. You've been discussing this for years. You studied this whole coming out of Egypt thing and all the nuances and all the chazals, all the mefarshim, all the explanations of the rabbis for thousands of years. He says, I don't care. This mitzvah stands to a person who even knows this. Chayavim is still obligated. L'saper b'zim Mitzrayim. Not only that, he says, this sipur you tell is not a short sipur. It should go on. V'kol ha'marich b'devarim shiro shayu harei zem shubach. He says, and not only that, how do you fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin? You put tefillin on, you're done. How do you fulfill the mitzvah of candles? You light the candles, you're done. How do you fulfill the mitzvah of the shalosh sudot? You eat the suda, you make the bracha motzi, you bench, you're done. How about this one? How do you fulfill this? This I hear. There's certain finite things you can do. But how do you fulfill this one of reading and telling the story? I mean, there's a lot you can discuss. What aspect of it? So the Rambam addresses that. He says, when it comes to telling this story of Yizim Mitzrayim, the more you tell, the greater the mitzvah. You want to talk for 10 minutes, you get 10 minutes of mitzvah. You want to discuss in 30 minutes, you get 30 mitzvah. You want to do it for 4 hours, you get 4 hours of mitzvah. You also get very irritated guests. But whatever you do, that's how much you get. So, if you will, there's no shor per se, there's no specific time. Just telling it over, which is why in the Haggadah it says, to fulfill the mitzvah, you have to say 3 things. Pesach, matzah, or maror. You got to say that. That's like the basic minimum thing you have to do. Okay, if you don't say those 3 things, forget about it. But you want to ask questions, you say Madishtana, and you want to add more stuff, and you want to sing the songs at the end. All those are part of the mitzvah of the night itself.
What does that mean? Why don't we say Pesach, Matzah,
If you
just
don't,
to say the words?
just say the words.
And you fulfill the mitzvah?
If you don't do that, you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah. That's the basic. I think that's the basic minimum. I believe a person can do. But there's a lot more to it, right? He's saying you have to say a lot more. You have to ask the questions.
And what if your son don't understand? Like for example, when you read the Haggadah, I didn't understand a lot of the things, and it was like kind of Hebrew.
I'm going to come to that. 1 second. I'm going to come to that. That's a good question of what language you do it in, especially if your kids don't understand. Yeah.
So further teaching the kids, or for fulfilling the mitzvah, even though you don't have children or you're doing it alone. So you said that they're still obligated under them. So who are they supposed to say to random children?
To themselves.
Oh.
You have to find a child and pull them in.
Because I already met.
It's like, hello, are you Jewish? Are you 7? I come with me. You're kidnapping kids. No, you don't want to do that.
Just out loud?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You say it out loud. You say it out loud to yourself. You ask the questions yourself. You say, "Marish ta'ala lazvakol," and you answer your own question.
But you know what, I like that because I feel like that's a viable option because when people like study Gemara, like they'll ask themselves a question and then they're exercising.
Well, actually, that's not totally true. When you study, you should study one-on-one. Someone else is there to sharpen you. That's really the way you want to do it. Okay? Says the Gemara, if you're getting kids involved and it's late, because remember, you can only begin the Pesach Seder after absolute nightfall. Unlike Shabbat, you can bring it in early. You cannot do that on Pesach. You've got to bring it in once the nightfall has come. You think it's tough here in America? Try doing it in England or Iceland. It's much, much later.
To bring it on what?
To bring it late. You have to bring it after after the stars have come out. You cannot begin the Seder until nightfall.
Oh, like Shabbat.
No. Shabbat, there's a mitzvah to bring it in early. There's a mitzvah I brought in Shabbat this week, it was 6 o'clock. There's a mitzvah of Sefer Shabbat to add on to Shabbat and to bring Shabbat in early if you can. If not, you have until Shkia, right? Shkia is when the sun goes behind the horizon. We're saying Pesach, you cannot get going on the Pesach Seder, not when the sun goes behind the horizon, there's still light outside. We're saying there has to be absolute stars shining outside in order to begin the Pesach Seder. So it has to be nighttime. So I got a problem now. I got a technical reality. What's that? It's late, it's dark, and
People are hungry.
people are, forget the hungry, everyone's hungry. You know that. We know that. No, you got kids. Kids go to sleep. It's a problem. You're meant to talk to the kids, and he can't begin the Seder till nighttime. That's the question of the Gemara. The Gemara is that question. What are you going to do? You're meant to talk to the kids, and yet you know when it comes to Pesach, unlike Shabbat, you can only make the bracha on the first kos yayin, first couple of wine, which is when the Seder begins. That's your kid. You make kiddush of Pesach is the first of the 4 cups. What are you going to do? Says the Gemara, you're going to do something you don't normally do. And that is, you're going to have to find innovative ways to keep your children up, says the Gemara. And that's not for only like a few of us, that's for everybody. Amru alav al Rabbi Akiva, Shahaya Machale Klayot, he used to hand out nuts on Erev Pesach so the kids would not fall asleep. Imagine that? That's how they used to excite kids in the days of Rabbi Akiva. They would give them egozim, give them certain nuts to eat, and that would get them excited. Would that work today?
Can I tell you what my uncle did?
He hits you. No.
He, for his Seder, like in his house, there are a lot of little children, and you know the Panini album of the World Cup. The sticker album.
Yeah.
And all the children are obsessed with it.
Uh-huh.
So he gave out like for the Afikoman, so they can go and look for Afikoman, the box of the stickers, and all the kids were up
Very good.
and running and
Isn't a sticker
crazy.
a muktzah?
No. So you're allowed to do such a thing. It's a book. Sure, kids, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do.
The card.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but it came out of your mouth anyway. Great, no problem. Having said that, we even go as far as to teach our kids how to steal.
Come on.
We don't normally do that. Where do you see anywhere in Jewish life? We're like, okay, you know how to do this? So it's taking, grabbing from them, hiding. You play this game of hide and seek with the Afikomen. It's okay, because it's still part of keeping them up and interested. And every generation has to figure out how to keep their kids interested. If it takes stickers of soccer players, that's the way it is. If it takes bribing them with nice toys and gifts, which I still owe my kids actually, then that's the way it is. And if it involves whatever it is, this is the time to do it. Rabbi Kiva teaches us this. He used to,
Stealing your
no, I'm being serious. Grabbing the Afikomen, hiding, stealing, grabbing things. It's all there to keep them interested. We're saying it's okay on Pesach Seder. That's what I'm saying. He used to give out klayot, dry grains, right? Ve'egozin and nuts, litinoket, be'erev Pesach, they shelo yishanu v'yishalu. So they would stay awake and they would ask questions. So this idea of keeping our kids engaged and interested, you do not need to do this at other times of the year. You don't have to keep your kids up for Sukkot, the young children. You don't have to keep them up on Purim. You have to keep them up. They want to go to sleep, the young kids, that's fine. Pesach Seder, we deliberately keep them up because ve'garata lebincha. Rabbi Elazar, it's nothing. Tanya Rabbi Elazar, Omer, choitfin matzos b'leil psachim. We will snatch away, we grab and hide matzot on Erev Pesach b'shvil tenochet shelo yishanu, in order to keep kids awake. So we do this, we grab stuff, we hide stuff, they steal from us, we do all these things, all there to keep the kids awake. So the Gemara itself has that question on Higarat Bincha, because it's nighttime, it says fine. Be exciting and mix it up. That's what the Rambam says. Turn over the page. That's why Pesach night is topsy-turvy. You're going to do a lot of things you don't normally do. I don't think of something you do on Pesach night, halachically, that you do not do the rest of the year. Something you do the rest of the year, but you do differently on Pesach night. And it's there to keep the kids interested and excited. Something you do the rest of the year, but you do it differently on Pesach night. And one of the reasons, not all the reasons, one of the reasons is to keep the kids interested and engaged and excited. Yeah, what are you going to say? Carapas is one of them. We don't. It's hard for us now. That actually is one of the answers. Yes, carapas usually dip it. We dip it differently, but we don't usually dip our foods into dips so much to see the difference over there. But one thing we do a certain way is we wash our hands. How do we wash our hands? During the year, wash our hands with a bracha. Now we wash our hands for a vegetable karpas, and we do not make a bracha. There's a halachic reality to that as well, because when it comes to touching certain vegetables that are wet, you should wash your hands. We're not makbid on that nowadays. We're not careful to do it. Places like we do it differently. We don't make a bracha, and it's difficult. So you wash your hands as you normally do with a kli, right? 2 on each side if you're Ashkenazi, 3 on each side if you're Sephardi. You'll wash your hands 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Don't make a bracha. And the kids are like, like. Tonight's different. Tonight is not like any other night, and that opens the conversation and gets them interested. Okay, they're only going to appreciate that, by the way, if you make them wash their hands during the year. Otherwise, they're not going to get it. So you learn from this that even young kids should be taught from a young age to wash their hands for bread at a young age. As soon as they're old enough to use a faucet or not even stand, they should be washing their hands to eat bread.
What about all the, like what you did? I mean, maybe I'm, like it's a dumb question, but like with the green vegetable, where like we hate each other and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
We'll get to that.
Is
we'll
it
get
a
to that.
lacha though?
No.
Oh,
That's all to, as a kid, there's reason for all the weird customs that we have on Pesach. Like we beat each other with scallions. I had to beat Shana with a scallion. It wouldn't be right any other way to celebrate Pesach. Don't worry, she deserved it. All these things we do are there to excite the kids, as well as each one has a certain significance. But it's there to celebrate. Yes.
This year, the people I was having Seder, one of the guys that was at the Seder took the Seder plate, like circled it around our head, and then
Yes,
like
who
hit
did the
a-
Moroccans do that, right?
Yeah.
They take the Seder plate, they put it over their heads,
And then like they hit.
I gave a talk last. You do that? Seder plate over their heads.
No, we do it with the top.
Oh no, we don't do that. We just like
We take them outside.
Oh no no.
It's
It's
Oh, my custom, I don't know. Why do they do that?
There's the yassa.
circle and then hit.
Well, you break the thing up in
We
Komi,
try
yeah?
not to take the rest.
Yeah.
We
just
just
circle.
And you what?
The next
We basically go around the table.
Well, you're Moroccan?
No, me and Syrian.
Oh, Syrian.
We take like
Shh, one at a time, one at a time. Go
the
on.
matzah cover with the matzah in it.
Yeah.
And then you pass it around the table and everybody takes it around their head. You put
And
it
rub it
on
over the
both
head?
sides.
What is that
No,
for?
you put it on
Oh, on the shoulder,
It's like a
because they
burden.
came out with the
They
mats
came
on the
out,
shoulder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you bring it around. You came from Egypt and you came to Jerusalem.
Wow.
And it's also part of like telling the story. Like everybody does.
Part of the, 100% part of the Sipur. But it's there to act it out. We'll see. That's going to be the Rambam. I was giving a talk last year at a high school of girls in Bruria, and there was a Sephardi girl there, and she says, in my house we have a custom that the father takes an egg and he bangs it on the head of the guest sitting next to him. I said, boiled egg, because the boiled eggs on the table, right? Because we eat an egg, l'zeicha korban chagiga. You should eat an egg also because there's a bit of mourning, because there was death along the way. So we take an egg. She said to me, what's that remembrance of? I'm like, remembrance not to go to your house for Pesach Seder, I said.
No, just don't sit next
Rabbi,
to her.
do you eat the egg with salt or without salt?
Without.
Oh, I always eat it.
I believe. And the matzah is without salt as well. It has to be lechem
Yes.
on. You can have no flavoring
But no.
whatsoever. What? The matzah you eat as a mitzvah on Pesach Seder. The rest of the Pesach you can't. But the matzah you eat for the mitzvah of matzah on Pesach, on the Seder, you don't dip.
And when you do hamotzi, you do
No. Oh, during the rest of the Pesach you can. But on Seder night, there's no salt. It has to be plain. There's no, yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the Rambam. And he says, page 81, let's go. You should do things differently on this night. Kidei, why do you do this? So the kids will be freaked out and weirded out, and they're going to ask, why are we doing things so weirdly? Why are we eating this way? Why are we leaning? Why are we drinking so much wine? Or maybe in your houses that's a regular thing. Maybe less wine, who knows? Right? Why is it so different? Why is this night different from all other nights? Okay? By the way, there's a story that there was a great rabbi in England who the Queen of England wanted to make him into a sir. You know what that means? Yeah. They would call him into the palace. To this day they do it. They kneel down, they put a sword on each side. They knight them. They did this.
And he actually went, he was very, very nervous. It was Erev Pesach. And he actually put his, and the queen came out with a sword. And she went on to each side of him. And he was so scared, he said, because Erev Pesach. And she said, why is this night different from all other nights? Okay.
No.
Wow, that's just
Oh, it's very funny.
Sarah, the coin dropped a little bit late. Yes, Audrey. It was a joke, Audrey. It wasn't real.
It wasn't even about this.
Oh, good. Thank goodness for that. Okay, yes.
What you said about the Morgan is that
Yeah.
you take the plate.
Yeah.
There's
Oh, you take the Seder plate and do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we turn around the end because it's the liberation of Egypt.
Yes.
It's the souls and the shamans here.
Oh my
so it's
God.
supposed to
Oh,
liberate
oh
the
my
shaman.
goodness. Look, Kabbalah. A Kabbalistic reason. Put it on the head because the soul's on the head. Wow. Okay. It could be. The case of Mishnah, Mechalek Lahem Klal, he says you should. So the Rambam brings this story of Akiva La'alacha and says you should do things that are going to ignite them, make them excited. The case of Mishnah, Mechalek Lahem Klal, Vegozim, V'okrim, Shulchan. You're going to move the table. Now we don't do this nowadays. It used to be that you used to have portable tables that would be brought to people who would eat. They would lie down and they used to change the tables backwards and forwards. They don't do this nowadays, right? The Rambam's day seemingly did. He says that's the way you should do it. You should move the table backward. Nowadays we cover the matzah, uncover the matzah, cover it on various points. We don't do this ikor shulchan. We don't move the table backwards and forwards. About to start eating, you pull the table away. We don't do that. Usually a person gets the table, that's it. But in those days they did, and he says that's one of the things you should do. You should grab the matzah, miyad zev, kiyotz b'rama elu, and things like this. So anything else you can do, which are going to get the kids excited to ask questions about things to do differently, like passing Seder plate over people's heads, banging eggs on people's heads, hitting with spring onions, scallions. All this is a mitzvah according to the Rambam. Then the Gemara says, let's talk about these banim. There are 4 sons. Keneged arba banim dibra Torah. The Torah itself, says the Haggadah, talks about 4 sons. And these 4 sons are mentioned in Yisrael Mitzrayim at different points in different ways. Echad chacham, ve'echad rasha, ve'echad tam, ve'echad she'enu l'ishol. These are 4 children who are representative of children in Bnei Israel. Who are they? The wise, the wicked, the simple, and the one who has no questions. Okay? Now, you've all been through your Pesach Seder. I don't have to go too much into this, but I will mention a couple of things. First of all, each one of them has a question. Even the Chacham, the smart child that we spoke about, he knows everything, he knows all the answers. What makes him wise? He asks questions. So we learn from here that wisdom comes or is maintained, if not attained, by asking questions. So the Chacham asks questions. You thought he's a smart kid, he should have all the answers. For us, that's not wisdom. A Chacham is one who asks questions, which is why, as I mentioned before, Chachma, wisdom, Chacham, wisdom, comes from Koach Ma. Koach Ma, the power of what? The power of what? What does that mean? The power of asking questions. That's where wisdom comes from. Right? That's what it says in Pirkei Avot. A person who asks questions, right? And a person who is timid and not ask questions does not learn. Right? Loha Baishan Melamed. A person who's scared to ask questions does not learn. Questions and answers are the way we Jews learn.
What exactly are they asking? Like, about what? Like, what is that?
Okay, so there is a script they have to read, right? Why? So they ask, we have given a script, but it shouldn't be limited to that. You can see we do a lot of things differently on that night to bring out more questions. Just the fact that we're asking questions about this night, and then we are forced to answer them and describe what happened to our ancestors and give divrei Torah about Yetziat Mitzrayim. So we give them questions to ask, just to open their mouths, as we're going to say about these 4 kids. Even the Eni Odeh Lishol, who's the worst of the four, the Rasha is not the worst of the four. He has questions. His questions are cynical and nasty, but he has questions. But the Eni Odeh Lishol, when he doesn't know even how to ask questions, Patachlo, we give him a question. We feed him the question. And then we answer it anyway.
No, but what are the, like I remember the question, like ma lachem, blah blah blah.
Right.
But
So
what is that? Like what
all
they
these are just different things we do differently.
So they're
usu-
asking about things we're doing differently.
On the Pesach Seder, and that gives a chance to describe to them about Yetziat Mitzrayim. So all questions are leading to discussions about the Jewish people in Mitzrayim, getting out of Mitzrayim, and really any other Jewish questions. So you're instigating, you give them a script, they sing Manishtana, and then they ask questions on other stuff. Why do we do this? Oh, because my grandmother used to put a Pesach Seder plate over my head. Right? That's what we used to do it, and that's our tradition. Why? Because you go there, and you have all these stories from the past. So the questions open up the conversation. The questions open up the conversation. So are there specific questions? Yes, some. But are you limited to those questions? No.
So how do you know what you are?
Whatever you say, just keep asking questions about what's going on. The topic is Sipporis Mitzrayim, Nisim v'Niflot. That's the topic. Go discuss. Yeah? So these four children are based upon their questions and answers. That's how we describe each child. The wise one asks a good question and we answer him. The wicked one asks a cynical question, we answer him as well after rebuke him a little bit. The simple one asks a simple question, Mazot, what is this? Alright? He doesn't know what the matzah is, doesn't know what all this stuff is. We just give him a nice simple answer. Every child is answered according to their knowledge level understanding. And the worst, Enodil Lishol, he doesn't even know those questions to be asked. We answer him anyway. The famous question, which is mentioned by Chazal in a number of places, is why is there no fifth son? And the answer is, he didn't make it to the Seder. Because he's... It's not a joke.
No.
It's serious.
What?
It's a lot of badicha.
No, he doesn't.
It's not a joke at
Where's
all.
the fifth son?
Yeah.
Why it should be fifth son?
Why do we stop at four? Why do we stop at that? Why
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 five?
four sons Dayenu?
Why five?
I don't know. Find a fifth son to ask a question or something else. So he's saying these four kids are at the table. Every child of these. There's a fifth son who's not at the table, who unfortunately is left, doesn't ask questions, doesn't know his questions, and generationally has been lost to his people.
Why?
Because he wasn't engaged in this.
Assimilation?
Could be anything. Could be
Wait,
Holocaust,
I don't
pogroms.
understand. This guy, this one child. He's one child that decides not to come.
He's not there. Yeah.
What do you call him?
He's gone.
Like we say that the fifth redemption is when it comes to Mashiach.
We hope every child will come back at that point. But even now, it's not at the table. Celebrate it this way, Sarah. Look at his four sons. Let me explain. As four generations. Great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and son. Look at it that way. The great-grandfather is always the tzaddik. He's got questions. Think about your great-grandfathers, right? Everyone's great-grandfather was a rabbi back in Morocco, back in Persia, right? Back in Europe, in Poland, right? Then he has a son who rebels, go against him sometimes. Then his son is the Tam, because he remembers his grandfather, but doesn't remember too much. And then his son is the great-grandson. He doesn't remember. Who remembers their great-grandfather? No one ever met their great-grandfather. Had stories about them. That's about it. He's totally gone. He's got no questions to even ask. He's so disconnected. So he's saying to the fifth son is actually the fifth generation. He's totally departed and lost his people. He's not even in the Pesach Seder. Doesn't identify as Jewish. He's not there. He or she is not a Pesach Seder. So the Lubavitch Rebbe used to say that's why you have to go out and pick up the fifth son and bring the Pesach Seder. That was the whole call for Jewish outreach. Yeah.
Right, where does it first say the son and then it asks the question? Why doesn't it say this question and then the son?
That's a nice question. I don't know. Why does it identify the child and then the question? Seemingly, I'm trying to think of the way the Torah does it. It's how the Torah does it. It's how the Rambam describes it. Because it's about the child. That's what the Rambam seems to say. Mitzvah lo dila banim ve'afilu lo shishalu you should engage your children, inform your sons, even if they do not ask. אפילו לא שאלו, שנאמר, והגעת לבנך, לפי דעת של הבן אביו מלמדו. A father should teach his son according to the son's understanding. It's not about the question, it's about the son. Maybe that's why we ask the son. We identify the child, know your child, and then engage the question depending on who your child is. Right? You should educate the child according to what he knows or doesn't know. So first of all, figure out what child you've got in front of you. Some kids are smart, get to nice, interesting discussions with them. Some kids, some adults know nothing at all. And you have to say, we were slaves in Egypt. Hashem took us out. Dayenu. And then you hit him. And there you go. And you're good to go. That's true. That's what you should do. So maybe we're identifying the child. Okay, next page, 82. So someone asked before, then if we're talking to kids, and the kids don't know too much, and they have different levels of kids, then supposedly the Haggadah should be understood. It's not a quick reading exercise that you get your mother or father who reads Hebrew very nicely to speed read through it so you can get to the chicken soup and matzo balls quicker. That is not the point of the Pesach Seder. Says this the Sefer Torah, the book of our heritage, and he says like this: Hoyel v'kam mitzvah Haggadah tehu babanim. Since the Haggadah's primary purpose is to teach children, to engage them. Once a year, you're engaging your kids about the Mitzrayim, or lefarsem et nisei yisrael Mitzrayim l'chol hashomea, and to publicize the miracles to all those who are attending the Seder. Lefikach, that's why. Rai Rosh HaMesovim, the person who's running the Seder, shifarshes inine Haggadah le'mesovim v'yosef behem as hezbek kadei sheyavinu hakol. It's not just to read through it. You can't just speed read through the Haggadah. You should stop at certain points and be masbir, explain what's going on. You can't just read in Hebrew, right? And even if they know it, you can just read in English and just read through it. You should stop at certain points and describe and discuss and explain what is going on. If you're running the Seder, that's your job. And if you don't know, then study beforehand. Prepare yourself. Yeah.
I feel like that is just so long that it's not even designed for like people to stop and ask questions. Like in my
Well, maybe it's a meal that should go on for a few hours. It's a few hour reality. It's not a speed read. You're able to read through it. And by the way, if you're able to read in Hebrew, we're going to see in a second, you read in English. And we'll see the Chasam Sofer used to have a custom to read through it in Hebrew and then the German. So it's specifically designed that way. I go through the Haggadah all in Hebrew, and we stop at various points to describe and discuss. And we finish at a fair time. What time did we finish this year?
Yeah, no,
Wasn't
I
so
wanted
crazy,
to
like
say, it was like
11:30, midnight, wasn't that
and
crazy?
we discussed it a lot.
And we had a lot of discussions that we
Yeah,
sang
had a
like
lot of
crazy
moments.
people as
When
well,
did you start?
in a drunken stupor.
No, we started very
It's
late
doable.
because he was talking to all the
Until
guests
you
in the
started at
hotel.
3:30?
Yeah, we started very late.
We
To
used
socialize, to talk to my people.
We would like
That's
kind
stuff
of
to do.
discuss.
We thought we were
What?
We would like kind of discuss it as we were reading it through.
Yeah.
But only a little bit, and then once we got to the meal and people were eating, then we would discuss it more.
That's a
because
mitzvah.
people could
Just
stand it.
talking, getting to the meal and discussing during the meal is part of the mitzvah.
'Cause
You're
no one
still
liked
part of the
it
Pesach
when-
Seder.
No one liked it when we would stop every 2 minutes during.
You
like,
have to know your
one.
crowd. You have to know your crowd.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to bore them. You don't have to keep it going till late at the night. You don't have to go to 3 in the morning. When I was a kid, you go to yeshiva and you tell them, oh, I stayed with to 3 in the morning, right? 4 in the morning. I just think to myself, nothing sounds worse. I'm saying, you want a good night's sleep? You should go later than usual. You should go later than usual. Okay? So he says a person should explain what's going on. Specifically for the young children. And I'm going to add adults who have the understanding of young children, which is most adults today. And if a person doesn't speak or understand so well, and he's outside of Israel, where not everyone speaks Hebrew, right? One should do the Haggadah in that language they understand. So you should read in Hebrew, but he says in Chutz people do not understand Hebrew, right? Then you should do it in language they understand. And he says such was the practice of the Chatam Sofer for Presburg, in Presburg. Shamar et kol Haggadah b'shtel shnot. He would say the Haggadah in 2 languages. Nowadays, it's printed in English and Hebrew, Hebrew and English. right, Hebrew and Russian, whatever it is, so at least they have an understanding. And now we go to a bookstore, you have 5 million Haggadahs. Who didn't write Haggadah? Everyone on their aunt wrote a Haggadah with the explanation at the bottom. You have stuff to read and to understand. Lashon HaKodesh for Lashon Ashkenaz. He would say it in Hebrew and said in German. Lashon Ashkenaz.
Ashkenaz is German?
It says here.
Interesting.
Okay? So that was the custom, and that's what should be done. So you should direct it. It shouldn't be some high convoluted discussion of deep thoughts on, like, Kabbalah. You have kids there, you're talking to the kids. Keep it nice and simple and clear. That is the mitzvah. They don't read Hebrew, no problem. Look at the Hebrew, read the English, read the Russian, the French, whatever it is you need to understand. Right? The Arabic, it's all good. It's all good. You should, there are parts in the Haggadah, and sorry, you see in Arabic as well. Yeah, I've seen that. You should do that. That is the reason why, because people should understand. It's not an academic text. You're not speed reading the Shemona Esrei. You know what I'm saying? And blah, 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 blah. That's not the idea. The idea is to discuss and engage and talk, take questions, answers, and the person running the Seder has to be in control of it. Okay. I want to come back to this point. I hope you're taking a lot of notes today. There's a lot being discussed. I want to discuss this. B'tseiti.
In personal form?
In the first person. Why does it say, I left Egypt? I never been. I never been to Egypt. Why does it say, I left Egypt? So it's, the Haggadah asks this question. And the Haggadah says, B'chol dor v'dor, in each and every generation, Chayav Adam, a person is obligated, lirot atzmo, to consider himself, to see himself, ki'ilu hu yatzah Mitzrayim, as though he left Egypt. And the Haggadah is going to quote a pasuk from the Torah. Shneimar, oh, I recognize this pasuk. Ve'garata lebincha, you should talk to your kids, B'yomahu on this day. Le'mor saying, Ba'avur zeh asa Hashem li, b'tzeiti Mitzrayim, when Hashem took me out of Egypt. And then says the Haggadah, Lo et avotenu bilvad gal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it wasn't just our ancestors Hashem redeemed, ela avotanu galeta imahem, Hashem also took us out. And then the Haggadah is going to have to bring a pasuk to prove this, because I wasn't taken out, my ancestors were taken out. Says the Haggadah, Shneimar, va'otanu hotzi misham, because us he took out of there, leman hevi otanu letet lanu et haaretz asher nishbal avotenu. Really, you were there. You were taken out, because every generation has to see themselves as though they left. So it's in the first person. Yeah.
You should talk to your kids as if
You personally left Egypt.
Everything is in the first person. We don't say, my ancestors left Egypt, right? We say, Lo rakat avotenu galim, right? But we were redeemed with them. Why do we learn this out? Because the pasuk of the Torah is in the first person. But say, team in Israel. I was taken out. So we already discussed a couple of answers to this question. We looked at the Rambam, who said, well, how do you do this first person thing? So he changes the lirot to lahara. Turn over the page. We'll come back to the, turn over the page, second paragraph. Look at the Rambam. So the Rambam quotes this halacha. The Rambam quotes this halacha and then makes it into the first person. Look what he does. B'chol davador, chayv adam laharot et atzmo. He changes lirot, remember the lirot in Haggadah? He changes it to laharot. What's laharot? To show, to display. He changes lirot. Lirot is to see, to laharot, which is to show, to display, to act it out. So according to the Rambam, everything you do at the Pesach Seder, you are showing, you're describing, you're leaning, you're drinking, you're flying plates in people's heads. All the other weird stuff we do is part of the we're leaning. Eating the matzah, right? Eating the maror. That's all part of the laharot. So he changes lirot, sees himself laharot, so I should display myself as though I left Egypt. So that's the Rambam's understanding of B'tseiti. Can you see it? How do you know I was there? You never see yourself like you have to act as though you were there. They eat matzah, I eat matzah. They're free people, I lean. Right? They're celebrating, I drink wine. They had to be involved with Levena making bricks, so I eat the charoset. And all that stuff is there to do and to reenact what they were going through in a very small way, yeah.
So how is this night different than other nights? Don't we do that every holiday?
Not at all.
Why not?
We don't eat matzah like they eat matzah. We don't lean like they're free people. We don't drink 4 cups of wine. Everything we do, no. Now that's specifically the Ananei Kavod. Right? It's after, once we're in the midbar. That this exodus from Egypt thing is specifically that and only that.
Or like not having milk I mean only having milk I think on Shavuot.
Having
That's
dairy.
like what they did there.
That's just customary. Meh. You don't have to do that. You don't really have to do that. These are the mitzvot of the night itself, to act it out. Okay?
Got it.
So that's the Rambam. Right? So he says, why? Ki'ilu hu ba'atzmo. You should see yourself, yatza'ata, be coming out now. So b'tseiti means I have to feel as though I am being redeemed from Mitzrayim. And if it takes 4 cups of wine to get to that point, no problem. You should feel as though you're leaving Egypt. You should feel the happiness. Mishibud Mitzrayim, from the slavery of Egypt. Shnemar v'otanu misham. We were taken out. Again, it's in the plural, but it's us. V'al davar zeh, and that is why Tziva Garosh Baruch Hashem commanded the Torah in His Torah. V'zacharat, you have to remember. There it is again. Ki eved hayita, you are a slave. Klomar ki'ilu ata ba'atzmcha hayita eved. You have to feel as though you are a slave. Yasat al-acheret v'nifdita, and you were redeemed. That is the obligation of Pesach. Everything you're doing is to feel as though you're a slave and you're getting out. According to Rashi, he answers this question differently. He says, it's as though you left Egypt because had they not been taken out, you would still be there.
Had who not been taken out? Them.
Your ancestors.
The Jews, fine.
Yeah. Your great-great-great-grandmother, Sarah. And your great-grandmother. Had they not been taken out, you'd still be living in Mitzrayim, and your descendants as well. So he says, there I feel personally connected to it because I'm free today because they were taken out. I'll give you a piece which I did not bring down over here. Well, actually, let me just finish off the ones we have, actually. I'll take that back. Let's just finish. I'll look at one answer of more of a Kabbalistic answer, which many of you have heard before, but this is one of the sources for it. There is an opinion that all the neshamot, we're on the bottom of page 83, all the neshamot we have today are connected to the neshamot that were there. So when it says that it took me out, I'm not lying. The me means
Actually me, my neshama.
my neshama. Every neshama of all the Jewish people that are ever going to exist existed at Yetziat Mitzrayim. Therefore, when it says me, it doesn't mean my physical me. It means my neshama was redeemed, and I'm just a continuation or a reincarnation of that original neshama, if you want to buy into that. So his answer is, look what he says, how do we answer this? So this is a nut. We saw Rambam, we saw Rashi. Let's see this in Rishonim. How are you honestly meant to see yourself as you left Egypt? He says, see yourself as I was never there. He says, Ela shebe'emet, the truth is, Ken hu shakol, hanashamat yusham be'etim Mitzrayim. You're actually saying a truth. When you say took me out, you're being honest. Because I was there. I wasn't there. You weren't there. But your neshama was. Your soul went through that experience in the form of your ancestors. Or somehow your souls were present there and were all present at Har Sinai. So that's a Kabbalistic answer to this question. I'll give you one more answer to this question, which comes from Rav Schwab. I did not bring it down. I'll give you one more answer. And Rav Schwab says, really, the fact you don't see yourself as though you left Egypt is because we don't understand what it is to be part of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are not past, present, and future. They're one organic whole that reaches right through history. Meaning, it may not have been you personally that left, but actually it was because your ancestors are just a previous you.
Can you repeat that? That's
Yeah.
very actual.
It's very deep but very beautiful. He says, you left Egypt. You yourself. He goes, but I've never been there. He goes, your ancestors left. He goes, that's not me. He goes, that is you. Your ancestors are just a part of you. They're a previous version of you. But that is you. It's the same genetic material being passed down, and you're just a further example of it. Which is why you'll see in the Torah, it refers to the Jewish people, even though there's many of them, in the singular. Right? It refers to us b'nefesh. Yodim Mitzrayim. We went down as a soul. We're referred to in the singular. Other nations are in the plural. We are nefesh achat. Ish achad, belev achad. We're called the Har Sinai. We're one people. So I never left Egypt. I don't remember being there. He goes, it's irrelevant you don't remember. You don't remember being a baby either. But that was you. If I showed you a photo of yourself as a baby, would you recognize yourself? No. I know I was a 2-3 day old. You wouldn't recognize yourself. How do you know it's you? Because someone said that's you. So I don't remember being a baby. Doesn't look like me. Doesn't sound like me. But it's me. It's just an earlier version. So too, he says, Rav Schwab, the Jews that left Egypt were an earlier version of us, but that was us. So you can say, I left Egypt. Just an earlier version. I don't remember leaving Egypt. That's irrelevant. You don't remember being a baby either. That's what he says. So let's just run through the answers to this question. We said, but Seder Mitzrayim. We saw the Rambam, he says, you acted out, you feel as though you left. Right? You feel it. Rashi says, had they not been taken out, you would not have been taken out. Right? Sima Shalom says, based on Kabbalah, every soul was present, and therefore your soul left Mitzrayim, which is you, because you're not your body, you're your soul. And the last answer, the fourth answer we looked at today's question was, feel as though I left Egypt, is, I did leave. I mean, it wasn't my body, this particular body that left, but the Jewish people are one organic whole that runs through history. So when it says they left, it actually means that I left as well. Because that's just an earlier version of me. I'm the adult version of that Jewish beginnings at Messiah Mitzrayim.
Can you repeat this? We are not past, present, future. We are.
Jewish people through history are one being. Ish echad b'lev echad. We're one person. We don't differentiate. Just like a child grows over many years, so do the Jewish people have grown over many millennia. And we started at Yetziat Mitzrayim. Just like a baby is born. We used that analogy before, remember? So I remember being a baby. It's like you don't have to remember being a baby. It's still you. So the Jews that left Egypt was just us in earlier form, as a nation, as an Am. So we did leave Egypt. And actually says that specifically you. Because he goes, this is literally means you left Egypt. And Haggadah says it, Torah says it, it means it. You left. I don't remember. No problem. It still happened to you. You as part of Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people.
So we're all one.
Yes. Precisely.
Well, it's interesting because even though we say door by door, it's like we're all in one.
Yes.
You know?
There's just different stages of development, but it's still one thing.
Yeah.
You have many years that got you to this point. There's many parts of your life that led you to school, and high school, and college, and Israel. Still one person. That's his answer to that question. Okay, how many classes do we have left?
No.
Oh my God. Okay, so next class we're going to just finish off Pesach very quickly. Then we'll begin the Omer discussion, which will take us, God willing, to Shavuot, which we have to finish the semester with. All right. Go finish over there. Have a good day.